Greetings from Movie Land, everyone. I'm the hostess with the mostest, Cinema Callie, and today I have a very, very special treat for you all today. Today is my top 10 films of 2023. I am very excited. There are some things on my list that I was not expecting to put on here, but I realized I did not see a whole lot of new films last year. I was quite shocked. I didn't see as many as I thought I have, so it at least helped limited the list down a little bit. But what I have on here, I am very happy about, and I loved each and every one of these films, and a few of these were some surprises throughout the year. So I'm very excited to share all of this with you. And also, please let me know what your top 10s are. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And to start us off today is going to be our number 10 pick, Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this film was quite the shock. This is probably my first shocker on my list here. I heard it was coming out. I've played the game a little bit, and I kept seeing the trailer, and I was like, oh, well, Chris Pine is in this. It looks like he's hamming it up. There's crazy creatures. Like, admittedly, I thought the trailer looked pretty fun. I was quite shocked by it. So then me and my wife decided to go see it, and we both left the theater absolutely shocked. I think that is going to be the name of the game with this film in particular, is just how shocking it was, of just how much fun it was. It really reminded me of old school summer blockbusters where it's not just a soulless corporate product, but instead just a good time. I mean, this film, just like I said, it's just a good time. It's so much fun. The acting is a lot of fun. The characters are great. I haven't seen it in a long time. I think I saw it when it first came out, and I really haven't seen it since. But after making this list, it is now on my watch list to watch it again. So yes, Dungeons and Dragons is my number 10. And I think you guys should check out this film too and have yourselves a wonderful time. And at my number 9 spot, we have Elemental. Now, I was not expecting to put this on my list, but as I kept thinking about it, I genuinely feel like this is probably one of the most underrated films of last year. I think it got screwed over because of everything that was going on with Disney and is still continuing going on. For those of you who don't know, Disney has been really struggling with their films lately. Obviously, they've screwed up Star Wars so bad that we haven't seen a Star Wars film in, it's gonna be 5 years in December. So it's been 5 years since we've had a new Star Wars film. So and then the shows just haven't been that good. And then, of course, we have the Marvel side of things, and after Endgame, it's just been, it's just hit or miss, with misses being a majority of it. And then, of course, the Disney main films of the animated films and all of that, and just how, once again, how hit or miss those have been. So Disney's track record has not been that great. And then also with what was coming out at the time, which I believe was Spiderverse. So we had Spiderverse, we had Flash, we had this, and I'm sure there's a few other things in there that I was missing as well, but there was just a lot of films that were coming out around the time Elemental came out. And I just think it's really too bad, because I genuinely think that this is a great film. It has a lot of heart, it has a cool story. The immigration stuff I feel is done really well, and the elements are really fun to watch. And I'm also going to argue and say that in a world where CGI has not really been that great lately, this is one of those films that has pretty decent CGI, and it looks gorgeous. Like, the water effects on the water elemental characters are great. The fire characters are nice and vibrant, and they really pop. And Admittedly, the world that surrounds the characters isn't that interesting because it's just kind of like, oh, well, all the cloud people live in literal clouds, or all the tree people, they live in literal trees, but then you have the fire people, and they live in kind of like a lower end slum area, so you kind of get that a little bit as well. But just our two main leads with Wade and Ember, I thought they had great chemistry. It has a nice kind of smooth going, relaxing soundtrack. It's not that loud of a soundtrack. This is kind of a quieter film. And I think that's the reason why I liked it so much, was it necessarily wasn't a super kiddie Disney film. And it was kind of more like teenagers, I would say, would appreciate this. But I just think it was a really good film. And I just feel so bad that it got so looked over and that it completely flopped at the box office. But I genuinely think this is a good film that if people go in with the right mindset of this isn't a perfect film, this isn't going to change your life or anything, but much like Dungeons and Dragons, it's just a really good time. And I really like the film for kind of being a quieter film and not a crazy bombastic kid movie that we usually get these days. So I really liked it for that sense. So yes, my number 9, Elemental. Go and check that out. And with that, we are now moving on to number 8. And number 8, I'm very happy about this one. I knew this one was going to be in my top 10. It just was a matter of where I'm placing it. And that is going to be Megan. Oh, I love this film. Oh my God, was I not expecting to enjoy this film as much as I have. Wow, Megan is awesome. As I have told people throughout the year, because it came out in January of last year. So this was like one of the first films of the year that we got. And I ended up missing it in theaters, but then I caught it later when it hit streaming. And I have got to say, I have told people when they've asked me if it's good or not, I have straight up said, I cannot believe that this film can have its cake and eat it too. And so what I mean with that is that it is campy. It is so campy at points. Like, of course, with the trailer, you have her doing what I call TikTok dances, and then she's running around with a knife. And then there's also the part in the forest where she's on all fours and she's running at some kid. So you have crazy campy moments like that. But then on the other side, you have a genuinely engaging story about a little girl who lost her parents and an aunt who doesn't want anything to do with this little girl, but yet she develops toys for children, but she doesn't want a child in the slightest. So there's that really interesting dynamic, and then she starts getting jealous of Megan as the little girl starts becoming more attached to her, and then the aunt's like, okay, maybe we're going a little too far. I don't know. Like I said, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And if you're a horror fan, you have either already watched this, and if you haven't, oh my God, check this out. If you're a horror fan, I don't care. Shut off the video. Go watch this right now. It is so enjoyable, so much fun, and the little girl who played Megan, I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your name, wow, is she a lot of fun to watch. And the practical effects are done really well, and like I said, the story is really good, and the film did so well that we had an announcement, I want to say a few months ago, that we are in fact getting a second Megan. I am so hyped. I cannot wait to see the continuation of these characters. So yes, number 8, Megan, go check it out. We are number 7. I am very excited for this one. I have been a fan of these films since the very beginning. Absolutely adore every single one of them. They are an action movie fans' delight. They are so much fun to watch. and that is John Wick Chapter 4. Holy cow, was this movie... I mean, it left me speechless by the end of it. I'm not going to spoil it here because I genuinely want people to check out this movie. Of course, John Wick, big series, and here we have part 4, the last chapter of the John Wick series, and I have got to say, it ended so shockingly, but as I kept thinking about it, I'm like, I'm satisfied. I am happy. If we were to never get any more John Wick films, which of course we are, later on this year we're going to start getting a spin-off film, and we already have the Continental show. So now we're going to get a whole bunch of John Wick spin-offs. But for me, of course I am excited for those spin-offs, but for me, I am perfectly fine with just these 4 films. I don't think I need any more. Keanu Reeves is incredible in each and every single one of these. The action in this film is unreal. It never stops. It's almost 3 hours long, which is crazy to think for a movie that literally is just non-stop violence, fist fights, gun fights, knife fights, all the fights you could ever want. It just never stops. And this film, once it gets moving, probably after maybe the 20-minute mark or so, it just never stops. It just keeps going. It jumps from next point to next point, and it's a spectacle. It really is amazing. And so yes, that is my number 7 pick, John Wick Chapter 4. And now we're moving on to number 6. And number 6 is probably I would say the newest film on my list, seeing as how it only came out maybe a month ago now. And that film is Poor Things. I was so excited for this. When I saw the trailer probably last summer, I was so excited. I was like, I may not like this, I may love it, I may hate it, I don't know, but the trailer sold me. I was very excited to see this. It looked incredible. It was for me, what got me in the theaters to go see it was how striking the production design was, and just how weird looking these sets are, how steampunky they are, and just kind of, I don't know, just how artistic it looked. And because we don't get films like this every day anymore. We really don't. And we're seeing less and less of these director-led vision films. And this was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I guarantee you I probably screwed that up, but I have not seen any of his films prior to this one. I know about them because he directed The Lobster and then also Killing of a Sacred Deer. And then I think he has 2 more theatrical films under his belt as well. And then this is his newest one. This one is amazing. It's a twist on the Frankenstein story, but then it also becomes a coming-of-age film at the same time. And there's just a lot going on in this film. Now, I'll be honest, this is going to be the definition of you either love it or hate it. I went to my local small indie theater. Like, we're talking, they only have 3 theaters in the entire building, and they primarily play small indie films like this. Now, of course, Poor Things did get a larger theatrical release in like your AMCs and Cinemarks, but it only lasted, I would say, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, because by the time I was ready to go see this and had the time for it, it already left my large chain theaters at this point. So I was starting to get worried that I was going to miss it. And then this was one I really didn't want to miss. But then I saw that it was playing at my super local theater. So I was like, oh, heck yeah. This is going to be the perfect environment for it. Small indie art house film. I'm enjoying a nice local beer. It was perfect. Perfect atmosphere for it. And there was maybe 10, 15 people in my theater. About 5 of those people ended up walking out halfway through the movie. So if that gives you any indication that yes, this is a love or you're just gonna freaking hate it. And I could tell the people who walked out, because they sat in front of me, that they hated it and they had enough. Disclaimer, there is a lot of sex in this, there is a lot of nudity in this, but it is done in service of the story, I would argue. It is not just there for the sake of having it there. And I'm sure some people are going to view it that way, but if you actually pay attention to the story, all of that stuff is done in service of the story. And of course, we have top tier acting in this. It's shot beautifully. There's a fisheye lens for a lot of especially in the beginning of the film. And so there's editing choices and camera choices, and there's even some of the film that is in black and white and 4:3, and then eventually it'll turn into color, and then it'll spread out throughout the entire screen and fill in the entire screen. And that is done in service of the story, and I loved that. Like I said, this is really a director-led film, and I praise it so much, because I'm just a big fan of the director who writes it and directs it and has a very clear vision. And the fact that Yorgos got to stay on his vision and A24 allowed him to do this is amazing. It really is amazing. And I can't recommend it enough. But if someone comes back to me and says, Poor Things was one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life, I would not be surprised. But for me, this is my number 6 film of the entire year. And so now with that, we're going to go into the top 5. I'm very excited for my top 5. Some of these I think are going to be pretty obvious. Others, and one in particular, I think will be quite a shock. And so with that, we're going to move on to my number 5, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I am a huge fan of the Guardians movies. I have been a fan of them since the first film. I am a huge comic book reader, and I felt like I was one of maybe 15, 20 people who even knew who they were before the first film came out. And then of course the first film came out, absolutely blew open the doors of comic book movies and what they can be and what they can do with them and just the characters. It's just amazing, directed by James Gunn, and Volume 3 is the conclusion to this story and to the conclusion of a lot of these characters. And I've got to say, I was very, very happy with the way that this film has ended. It was probably one of the best MCU movies, probably since Endgame, I would say. All of that is also including No Way Home. I feel like for the newest MCU movies, Guardians and Spider-Man are very obviously the best of the best that we have gotten. And James Gunn just ended this perfectly, and he is of course now moving on to DC, and I'm happy with where these characters have ended up. I was emotional. I could not believe the emotion that was in this movie, and I think that's what makes the Guardians trilogy as a whole so enjoyable. Of course, there's no secret, all 3 of them have amazing soundtracks, great songs. I listen to them constantly throughout the year. If I just want some good songs to throw on in the background, I'll throw on some awesome mixes. And then of course we have the characters and the fact that it's just a dysfunctional family, and we get to see all of this develop and just where it goes. And it's just, I can't praise this enough. That it's crazy, it's fun, it has wild aliens, we see crazy things. It just, I cannot recommend Guardians 3 enough. If you have the chance to only watch these movies out of the MCU, I would say these ones are probably the best ones to watch if you do not want to commit to 30, 40 some movies and TV shows and just want a good story, I cannot recommend the Guardians trilogy enough. And in particular, Guardians Volume 3. It was absolutely amazing and left me so satisfied with the way that it ended. And much like John Wick, I would be very happy and satisfied if we never got another Guardians film ever again. Of course, this is Disney we're talking about, so yes, we probably can expect a Volume 4 at some point. But as it stands right now, to me, the Guardians story is over, and I couldn't be happier with where it ended. Now we are on number 4, and number 4 is going to be maybe a tad bit of a shock to some people for how low it is on my list, but hopefully my top 3 will make up for that. But without further ado, my number 4 is Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Oh, wow. I think this is probably one of the best animated movies we have had in a very, very, very long time. I love. I know I'm probably going to be saying that a lot this video, but I'm sorry. I loved this film. I have seen it many times since it's come out in theaters. I saw it 2 times in theaters, then I bought it the day it came out on 4K, and I've watched it many times since then. It's just, I cannot believe the artistic side of this film and just how they use the multiverse to their advantage by giving the different universes their own artistic style done in the animation, and just the way that the characters were and how good the story is and how awesome Miles is as a character by himself without the crutch of Peter Parker is amazing. And this is multiverse story done right, and I think this is why other multiverse stories have not been as successful. Of course, we have the MCU and Flash as just some examples that come to my mind, and just how they seem kind of messy, or just more like, oh look, remember this character? Isn't it cool we brought back this actor? But instead, the Spider-Verse movies use these to their advantage, and instead create an amazing multiverse story. And I just could not be happier. Of course, it got delayed, that the second part will be coming out next year. And honestly, with how much I've enjoyed the Spider-Verse films, I'm okay with waiting. If that means we get another freaking masterpiece like we got with this one, then I'm fine with waiting. I really am fine with waiting. Take all the time you guys need and to make another masterpiece, and I cannot recommend it enough. I even genuinely feel like if you're not really a fan of superheroes, I think there's enough here in the Spider-Verse movies for people to find something that they enjoy. These movies are absolutely incredible. And so with that, that is number 4, Spider-Verse. All right, here we go. The moments we've all been waiting for. The top 3. Now, it was no secret. I knew these 3 were going to be the top 3 of the year without question. It was just a matter of where I was going to place them exactly with the 3, but I'm very happy with where I put them. And without further ado, number 3 is Oppenheimer. Yes, Oppenheimer, the ultimate movie of the year, I would say. I think it is a high contender for being movie of the year, and just how amazing this film was. I cannot believe that I was this sucked in to what is essentially the second half is a courtroom drama, but I was absolutely sucked in. Now, not as extreme as Poor Things. I would still kind of feel like Oppenheimer is either going to be a love or hate movie. But you're either going to be into this or you're not. It's just as simple as that. But with me being a big history buff, and just the story behind creating such a weapon and what we could do with this weapon as a race, and the man behind it. What would that do to somebody? And of course, the big theme of the film is that Oppenheimer is the modern day Prometheus because he gave fire to man. And so there's that big theme woven throughout the whole film. And I cannot believe how amazing this film was. And even watching it at home on the 4K is just stunning. The shots, the look of the film is just gorgeous. And the story is really captivating. Because what would that do to somebody? I mean, you created the most destructive weapon in all of humanity's history. And to me, I just find that fascinating. What would that do to somebody? Being like, oh, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And the fact that it's more of that moral conundrum of, well, if we don't do it, then someone else is going to do it. And if that someone else makes it, it's not going to be pretty. And so we need to beat them to the punch. So there's a lot of that woven in here as well. And I cannot give it a high enough recommend. I think Oppenheimer is definitely worth at least giving it a shot. I think it is highly worth giving it a shot, just from a historical standpoint, but also to just see a really damn good movie. We don't get damn good movies hardly ever anymore. It feels like we just get a nice handful of them every year. And this is one of those ones that is at the top. So number 3, Oppenheimer. Go see that now. Now we're on to my number 2. I cannot wait to see what the reaction is to this number 2. I have looked at many top 10 lists of the year, and I have not seen this film on a single one of these lists. Now, it could be argued that it is not a new release, because this is technically a remaster, but I would say the remaster breathed so much life into this film that I dare say it is a new release, and it is a stunning film to watch, and that is Stop Making Sense. Yes, that is correct. The Talking Heads concert film is my number 2 of the year. Talking Heads is one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band of all time. I absolutely love Talking Heads. Big David Bryan fan, and I feel like they were ahead of their time. Their music, I can never get tired of their music. And going to see this in theaters on the big screen with theater sound, it was an experience I'll never forget. I will never forget this. The energy that David Bryan brings to the stage is incredible, and it makes you exhausted watching it, because there's one point where they're playing a song and he's just doing laps around the stage, and then of course he has the big suit and he's dancing in the big suit. And the opening, I think the opening song is probably one of my favorite songs. It's an acoustic version of Psycho Killer. And it even the concert itself is artistic in the sense because it starts with just David on stage. Just him by himself with his little tape recorder and his guitar, and he just starts slowly playing Psycho Killer. And with each passing song, we add another member of the band. And then once the whole band is on stage, and what's cool is we get to watch the stage be built. Now, of course, it's just stages and they're just rolling them out. But from an artistic standpoint, it's incredible to see, because it's so cool seeing them come out one by one as a new song plays, and the band just gets bigger and bigger, and the songs get bigger and bigger. And it's just, I mean, it is a delight to watch. I would even say that this film will make people fans of the talking heads. So if you want to see something that is way out of the box, you know, something completely different, that is just a delight. I mean, I don't know how you could not watch this film and have a smile on your face, at least at some point. Even if it's just one song, you have a smile on your face. I just don't think that's not possible. The energy and just the positive vibes and just the power of music that comes from this film is incredible. It really is incredible. And I cannot wait to have this on 4K. For whatever reason, it has not released yet. I have been watching it like a hawk. So if you have to sail the high seas to see this, I think it is very recommended to go see this. I love it. Absolutely love it. And that is Stop Making Sense by the Talking Heads. Go see this now. All right. And here we are. The moment of truth. The ultimate moment. For some of you, this may not be a surprise. And it was a little bit of a surprise to me because I just could not think of something that was better than this. And that is Godzilla -1. That is right. I never would have thought that I would say Godzilla -1 is the best film of the year. I went in with very, very high hopes. You, of course, can watch my full review of it on my channel. Same with Oppenheimer. To get my full thoughts on the film there. But for just some quick thoughts here, yeah, this movie is stunning from beginning to end. It was a breath of fresh air because, of course, Godzilla, no secret, has been around for a very, very long time. There's almost 40 Godzilla movies in existence, and so they get pretty formulaic. A lot of them, you know what to expect when you're watching a Godzilla movie, and of course you have the action figure fun of the Monsterverse, and then of course you have the older Japanese films, but then this one comes along, and wow. Just wow. It really is just wow. This is probably the first time I have ever given a crap about the human characters and genuinely wanted to see what was going to happen to the human characters. If anything, I found the human characters more interesting than Godzilla, which, like I said, that has never happened, and that's why I think this is pretty much a flawless film. Now, of course, you can get very nitpicky with it if you want. The biggest thing being that the CGI looks a little cheap in places. But I think the biggest thing is that in the movie world, a lot of people have been complaining about the endless franchise films. We have prequels, sequels, reboots, seboots, preboots, whatever. If it's a big name that can print money, make a movie. Who cares if it's good or not, because the suckers will end up in the seats no matter what. So there's been a lot of those kind of feelings these days, especially with comic book movies and just big franchise films as a whole. Then here comes Godzilla, and I feel it shows Hollywood and just the movie world as a whole, this is what you can do with an established property and turn it into its own thing, and you can make truly great films out of big franchises. And Godzilla proves that. This film was made on a $20 million budget. I mean, we're talking, I think Guardians was made for like 300, 400 million. Like, or how the fact like Marvel's, I think, was made for like 200 million. And that movie was a whole lot of okay and just forgettable. But you have Godzilla that has a great human story. It has excellent monster action. It has a great story of We can't rely on the people on the top anymore. Instead, we need to come together as a community. And I feel like that is a message that we need in this day and age more than anything, with incompetent leadership, that we as a people need to come together. And Godzilla really drives that message home, that if we come together, we can do anything and everything. And that means even stopping a giant monster from stomping around our city and crushing it. Go see Godzilla -1. It is by far the best film of the entire year. And I went in with high expectations because I'm a huge Godzilla nerd. But I was not expecting to walk out of the theater and say, wow, this is the best Godzilla film of all time. After decades of watching them and loving them, and then finally being like, yeah, this is a masterpiece, and this is why I love Godzilla. So yes, Godzilla -1 is number one film of the year. And with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed my top 10 of 2023. It was a lot of fun making this video, and it was fun trying to figure out where I was going to place things. There was a few things that were surprises, primarily Dungeons & Dragons and Elemental. I was not expecting putting those on my list, but as I kept thinking about it, I was like, yeah, these movies deserve to be in the top 10 just because of how surprising they were. So it was very nice having some surprises. There was also some that I'm just like, yeah, these are going to make it no matter what, like Spiderverse and Oppenheimer, and of course Godzilla. It took me a long time to really think about if Godzilla was the best movie of the year, and to me, it was. Without a doubt, it was the best movie of the year. I can watch this film over and over again and be happy and satisfied the whole time. And so yeah, let me know what your top 10 favorite films of the year are, or maybe just some favorites of the year, or if there's some that I missed. Also, let me know down below. I love any and all movie discussions. And so with that, guys, I will see you in the next one.